This is Fowl Players Radio, your podcast for arts, entertainment, and pop culture. Welcome. My name is Michael Spedden, your host. Every episode features fun, fascinating stories about people in the performing arts, actors, authors, dancers, writers, musicians, athletes, you name it. Folks who are center stage, backstage, on camera, or behind the scenes. Sit back and listen. Let's have some fun. Fowl Players Radio is a proud production of the Fowl Players Group and the official podcast of the Fowl Players of Perryville. Folks, tonight's guest is Carrie Zaruba. I met Carrie a few months ago up in Philly. She was performing at the Fire Club with our friends Red Dye Number 9, and I bought one of her CDs, and wow, she is an incredibly talented singer and songwriter who originally hails from Brooklyn and Baltimore. We talked about her CDs, her days in Nashville, her experience at the Baltimore School for the Arts, and paying your dues in show business, something I know a lot about. Her music, as well as merch and show dates, can be found on her website, www.carriezaruba.com. Links to her website and social media and everything else will also be found in the show notes. If you are interested in professional comedic entertainment for your venue, fundraiser, or other event, please consider a murder mystery from the Fowl Players of Perryville. For bookings and other information, please call us at 443-600-0446, email foulplayersperryville@yahoo.com, or for more information, our website is fowlplayersofperryville.com. And don't miss the Back of the Rack, the Michael Spedden Show on 97underground.com, Baltimore's pure rock worldwide. We feature songs you forgot you like. Current and classic local rock, hard rock, and metal classics that never die. Tune in every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern. You can listen on your computer, download the app, or you can listen anywhere you go if you download the app from 97underground.com. We at Fowl Players Radio are proud to support artists, and we encourage you to consider shopping small and supporting them as well. Links to their books, albums, tickets to their shows, and other items can be found in the show notes of every episode. We thank you for tuning in and listening. Remember, you can help us greatly by clicking the like and subscribe buttons and giving us a fair review. Our main website is foulplayersradio.com. Our YouTube channel is youtube.com/@foulplayersradio. And we have dozens and dozens of other platforms the podcast can be found on. We'll be right back with Carrie Zaruba right after these words. Put on your detective hat for an evening of murder mystery at NAMI of Howard County's Fall Fundraiser, Friday, November 3rd, 2023, from 6:30 to 9:30 p.m. at the Owen Brown Community Center, 6800 Cradle Rock Way in Columbia, Maryland. The Fowl Players of Perryville will present The Late, Late, Late Show. Chaos ensues at a local TV station when a murder takes place. Can you solve the case by gathering clues from the suspects? Don't miss out on this exciting event filled with intrigue and entertainment. There will be raffle prizes too. Tickets are available at NAMIHowardCounty.org. The mission of NAMI Howard County is to improve the lives of individuals with mental illness and their families through education, advocacy, and support, and to increase awareness of mental illness throughout the community. All funds raised through the event directly support their programs, which are free of charge for all participants. Get your tickets now at NAMIHowardCounty.org. We hope to see you there. And welcome back. Another episode of Fowl Players Radio. And I have another Baltimorean on with me today, another native Baltimorean. I'm a Dundalk boy. She's just from the other side of the tunnel over in Brooklyn. I also has family in Curtis Bay. I met her about a month and a half ago up in Philadelphia doing a show when my friends Red Dye Number 9, past guests, were up there. Please welcome to Fowl Players Radio, everybody, Carrie Zaruba. Welcome, Carrie. It's
Hello.
great to see you.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I've been listening to your material. I have the CD that I bought from you at the Fire in Philly, Heart's Beat. And then I also bought your 2021 album and your most recent single online. And I got to tell you, this material is just incredible. I mean, you have done a phenomenal job of getting together some great material. It's well written, well played. I mean, you've got great musicians playing on it, and just tell us about this whole thing. I mean,
Sure.
I just can't wait to hear all about you now,
Thank you. Yeah, I am from South Baltimore, right off Patapsco Avenue. My parents are still in the Brooklyn Park area, but
Yeah.
I came to Philadelphia to go to college. I went to a Baltimore School for the Arts for high school, where I was trained classically. Graduated from there in 1999.
Okay.
So that's how I learned to read music and like my technique and all of that. And I came to Philadelphia to go to college, University of the Arts, and I studied jazz and still classical, but I knew I didn't want to have classical be my career base. And always loved the strong women songwriters, especially of the
Hmm.
day, Joni Mitchell. And then at that point, there was Lilith Fair was like really happening. And so
Hmm.
all of those incredible women artists and writers and like Sheryl Crow and the Chicks and just had such a Tori Amos like had such a hold on me. Um, and so I started I was a professional background singer here for a while and started to try to write my own songs. And eventually I got introduced to a man named Kent Wells, and he is my dear friend and mentor. He is one of the most talented people I've ever met, and he is currently he just wrapped on production of Rockstar, Dolly Parton's double album that is coming out in November. Um, so he is someone that I moved to Nashville to work with. He said, if you move here, I'll work with you. So I moved there. Like 3 months later, I moved there, and this was in 2008. And I began the arduous and thankless process of grinding my way through Nashville,
Hmm.
learning how to write a country song, understanding the art of songwriting, um, and playing on street corners and in biker bars, and doing all of those grind sort of things where like you're not being paid and maybe no one's listening, but can you connect? Right. So it's still the challenge that I give myself anytime I'm on stage anywhere, no matter the size of the stage. Or can I connect? Can I connect with one person here that I may not have anything in common with,
Sure.
either through my voice or my writing? And he is the person that has produced my records in Nashville with some of the best players in the business. And he is my co-writer on most of my music. So I bring him my songs, and we have an incredible chemistry, and we've continued to work together. And I fly down there about quarterly, and we write, but most of the time it is like lightning in a bottle, where we'll knock out 3-4 songs in about 2 hours,
Hmm.
which is an incredible rate for them to be good, good
Oh
songs.
yeah, yeah, I know. I mean, I could rattle off a dozen in about an hour, but
Right.
I'd say it's not going
How
to
many
be
of them are good? And that's the
right.
question.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, good. You mean good? Oh, you wanted that
Right.
too. Okay, right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
You mentioned that you had started off as a backup singer. Now, and a lot of the names that you had mentioned from like the Lilith Fair,
Mm-hmm.
crowds that you were, Sheryl Crow, well-known backup singer before
Mm-hmm.
she really got out on her own and
Mm-hmm.
became a name of her own.
Mm-hmm.
A number of other ones too. Sheryl Crow comes to mind, and there's a number of other ones out there that were backup singers
Mm-hmm.
before they really staked their own claim and
Or
got
even
their own career.
writers,
Writers as well, yeah,
writers before, Patty Griffin is someone that I stumbled on
sure,
because
yeah.
I was really obsessed with the Chicks at the time and still am. Um, and I wanted to know who wrote Top of the World, which was the
Hmm.
title of their tour back then. And that song I could not stop playing. And I was like, who is this? And this was the glory days of CDs where, you're
Hmm.
pouring through the liner notes, and like Patty Griffin, Patty Griffin. So I went to Tower Records and I found Patty Griffin, right? So I found her work, and her first full length record she put out was called Living with Ghosts. And any songwriter, especially any woman songwriter worth her salt, will have had that as an influence, for sure. So, and she's really my songwriting touchstone. Now she's someone who the real writers know and respect and love. And she's written lots of songs, so many Dixie Chicks songs. And Sheryl Crow actually covered Truth Number Two, and that's one of her songs too. So she's, in terms of like how I would have loved to model my career, I think Patty Griffin is someone that I just so admire and respect.
Yeah. Um, and those other names that you mentioned, I mean, there's just a lot of other, names out there that all just have done just such incredible things
Mm-hmm.
with their careers and with their craft and everything. And so going to Nashville, you lived down there for a good while and paying your dues. I mean, that's just something that it seems like, and I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but it just seems like in this modern day, paying your dues doesn't seem like it's something that people are either willing to do, or it
Mm-hmm.
just seems like it's taken out of the picture. And what I mean by that is like a lot of these talent shows on
Mm-hmm.
television,
Mm-hmm.
American Idol, America's Got Talent. I mean, they're
Mm-hmm.
good. It is great that people get an opportunity to
Mm-hmm.
showcase themselves in that audience, but you know, I think it makes a difference when dues have been paid. I mean, you've been out there, and you had mentioned this too, whether anybody's listening, whether you walk out of there with $5 in your pocket or
Mm-hmm.
just a sandwich that the person at the coffee shop gives you
Mm-hmm.
or something. I mean, it is extremely, and I know this too. I mean, we in our conversations we've had, it
Yeah.
is extremely difficult to build a following, to polish your material. I mean, it is a lot of work.
It's consuming, and you have to want to risk the failure, I think.
Hmm.
Because if, and for me, when I walked into that biker bar for the first time, I mean, I'm not exactly rough around the edges. I mean, I'm tough, but I don't look like
Hmm.
these folks. And um, I won them over, and that was my first experience of like,
Hmm.
you know, after that, I never had to wait in line for the bathroom. They were open 24 hours, and they always made me breakfast before I went home. And uh, so I think you have to be willing to fail.
Hmm.
And that sounds so cliche, but I think in the sense of I wrote a lot of bad songs before I knew what a good one felt like.
Hmm.
I wanted to understand how to write a song that was not about me, right? So a lot of
Hmm.
song, especially in the beginning, it's your own myopic view of the world and your own story, or you're pooling from your own experiences. But I made a conscious choice to challenge myself to write stories about people I had met or never met, or dreamed of, um or concepts that I wanted to explore. And I think you don't really know if it works until you play it in full into a room of, maybe even an empty room. Maybe there's two people there, but if those two people have connected with you, you're onto something, and
Hmm.
you can go back and you can tweak the material, and what works. And it's taken me 15 years, but in this last dozen or so I've written are the best I've ever written. And I think in terms of any art form, if you are expanding your ability, if you're improving, if you're searching, if you're stretching, if you're taking risks, that is the
Hmm.
art itself. So like, ultimately, yes, who does not want fame and fortune? And I want to be able to connect with a larger audience. But the fulfillment is for me is for writing.
Hmm.
And I heard another artist say this, and I can't remember who it was, but they were talking about songwriters specifically, about how they process their pain in real time on stage.
Yeah.
And that has really stuck with me, and I wish I could remember who said it. But it's a personal thing. I'm not just singing, I'm singing my own songs. So yeah, I did that thankless grind of being very unimportant, having, lots of meetings canceled, and even like walking through the door. So, sorry, Dolly's here. You got to go. See you next week. And then we were scheduled 6 times or whatever. And so again, understanding, and here's something else that's really important, is that I learned how to be a really efficient writer and an efficient studio musician because I had to be. I did not have the luxury of paying, tens of thousands of dollars for a full day in Sony. So I learned how to be really, really efficient. I can get a song in 2-3 takes. I can write a song in 40 minutes. I will not waste your time. I will be, on time and professionalism, all those things, all that came from, not only my education and my training, certainly, but the real experience of finding my own photographers, doing my own graphic design, knowing how to do my hair and makeup, booking my own shows, playing on street corners, which is the most money I ever made in Nashville, was playing on the corner of 2nd and Broadway.
Is that right?
It was a female trio, a girl on a little 3-piece drum kit and a electric guitar and me, and we just played the same like 8 songs for like, I don't know, 4 hours. And again, there's the challenge. Can I stop these people in their tracks? And I could. And we made like, I don't know, it was like something silly, like $700 or $800, like just on the street. And then the bar owner, who we were next to the bar, he came out and he said, "You're taking all my people away, so you can't be here." But again, I did a lot of those things. And I still, when I eventually left Nashville, I even wondered, like, at what point, at what level of success am I happy with? Do I feel like I succeeded at all? And I wrestled with that for a few years. But I do think that the risk, the grind, the thankless, everyone wants everything fast. And I know I did at the time. I wasn't ready. I had to hone my perspective as a songwriter. What am I trying to say? What am I trying to learn about myself and the world?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was some of the most valuable time I've ever spent was in that phase of my life.
Now, getting back a little bit, you said you went to Nashville. Did you start playing in Baltimore before you went there, or did you try other cities? No.
I left Baltimore at 17, so I have not.
Okay, so you were in Philly.
Yeah,
okay.
So I graduated high school, and I had skipped a grade, so it was kindergarten, but
me too.
So it was cool. I don't think they do that anymore. I went from pre-K to 1st grade, which I guess is a big jump, but didn't feel big at the time. But anyway, I was, put me a year behind other folks. So when I went to college, I was not even 18 yet.
Me neither.
Yeah. Yeah. So you know how that is. And I never went back. I went to college and I kind of started, that was the beginning of the grit, being in Philadelphia, because it's a pretty tough town. But
how do you, what I wanted to get to, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on you there. What I wanted to kind of find out was, when I was playing years ago, and this is, 35 years ago, late 80s, early 90s, we found that every city we went to was a different animal. And I don't know if you found this too. And you've done Nashville, you've done Philly, we did Baltimore, we did DC, and we did New York. And then there were a couple of others from around. We found that the audiences in Baltimore were a completely different animal than DC.
Sure. Not even that far away from each other, but
not even that far away. It seemed like, Baltimore was more of a metal and hair band predominantly area. And things were more the norm. Like, it was, people were kind of, I guess, a lot more like homogenous, a lot more kind of all trying to find their way into that mold. We found that DC was a lot more open, DC was a lot more of a town of take a handful of spaghetti, throw it against the wall, and see what sticks. And we found that the Baltimore audiences weren't quite as open to things that were a little more different, and we
Hmm.
found New York was like DC, but even more so,
Hmm.
even more so. And
Hmm.
I was just curious if you're finding differences in the audiences or how you're received in the
Hmm.
different places where you perform.
I think it's a tough market here in Philadelphia
Hmm.
and I'm still looking for that market.
Sure.
It's it's not really a songwriting town from what I've
Hmm.
been able to discover, and certainly, Americana or country music. This is not. It's
Hmm.
where it thrives. There is the folk society, and there is a community. I'm still looking to connect with that community.
Hmm.
Um, but I, you know, came up in the Nashville Writers Round, and how the song and the writer of the song is revered, and um, so yeah, I think Philadelphia is a harder place to win over a crowd, but when you do, you feel accomplished. And I've been able to do that. I did an open mic 2 weeks ago, and just as just for fun, just went
Hmm.
up there and peeled the paint off the walls.
Yeah.
Um,
I still do them once in a while myself too, even
yeah.
though I'm not actively playing anymore, but I still do them
Mm.
once in a while, and I do them. I'm developing stand up as well, and I do
Oh,
open
cool.
mics for that, and that's brutal as well. You're really paying some dues there, as I
Yeah.
would say. But
So
um,
you have to be so vulnerable for that, and any performing it takes some vulnerability for
it
sure.
really does. It really
Yeah.
does. But you went to the Baltimore School for the Arts, and that school's no joke. I mean, you've got to, it's not like you can just waltz in the door. They
No.
don't take it everybody, and
No, I had a very
you gotta,
small
yeah,
class. Yeah.
and you really got to work hard to maintain to be able to stay there
Yes.
too.
Yeah, it's not just your discipline, it's also the regular rigorous academics.
Hmm.
So, we had the expectations from all of our professors were the same. You strive for excellence in French and in chamber choir or in your vocal private lesson. And you had, I always say, and again, I was younger than
Hmm.
other folks. But it was like a college experience before I went to college. That was my foundation for, um, I would say, for everything, music specifically, but um, the ways of the world, and the human condition.
Hmm.
I met some incredibly brilliant artists, and everywhere you looked was just brilliance, and it was so lucky. Um, I went there in 1995 to 1999, so
Sure.
really, I think the heyday, it had found its groove in the community, and this was after Tupac and Jada
Hmm.
Pinkett Smith, and pre-Christian Siriano, but not by
Yeah.
much. I was so lucky, and I knew that I was lucky, and it was the only thing I'd ever auditioned for. First thing, my parents were, not stage folks, not stage parents, but they had heard about this school, and they were like, let's try. And it was by far the most valuable learning experience I have ever had. It taught me technique that I still use today every time
Oh
I
yeah.
sing. It taught me how to read music. It taught me a deep affection for classical masters, Stravinsky and Brahms. Um, the true art of musicianship is that's something I learned there.
Hmm.
Um, I went back and I gave a talk. This was right before the pandemic. They asked me to come back and talk to the seniors, and a lot of the time they had been asking me for a little while, and I thought, like, I'm not traditionally successful, right? So what do I have to say to these kids? What do I have to say? I don't know. But what I talked to them about was the idea of worthiness, and how I never thought I'd be a songwriter, and here I am, a songwriter, and about understanding that you are worthy to create your art and put it out in the world, uh, however it looks like and however you dream it up. Um, so that was a really, really awesome full circle moment for me. I was able to go back and feel that energy again. I just love it there so much.
Going back a few years, I guess if we step back a little bit,
Hmm.
before you went there, your parents, you said, your parents saw this school. What was it that made them say, we got to find the school, or this is the
Hmm.
school for you? I mean, what did you start off doing? Because I mean, everybody, I guess, were you, did you start off as a young girl doing dance lessons or piano or something like that, or
Wasn't that
acting?
lucky? No,
Yeah,
not off of Tapsco Avenue. We didn't really have the means. I'm one of four
sure.
kids, and
Yeah.
um, so no, it was my parents' deep love for rock and roll.
Hmm.
My son is named Dylan, so and specifically, Paul Simon's Graceland, that record. I
Hmm.
remember when we first got a CD player, and that was like one of the first CDs we ever had. And then The Last Waltz, that double album, and
Hmm.
then the movie. That, and then Crosby, Stills and Nash, and those records played all the time, morning till night. So
Hmm.
I was singing along to those things,
Oh.
not knowing that matching pitch was a thing that was special or different. My parents didn't have really time to suss out this potential
Hmm.
talent. It was like, we're putting meals on the table and we're keeping our kids clean and educated, and that's about as much as we can do. But I remember my sister had an old school, this was in 80, god,
Hmm.
88, and Madonna, I could hear Madonna on the headphones, and she was singing and she could not match the pitch.
Hmm.
And I was like, why can't she hear that that's wrong? And that was
Hmm.
my first inkling that, like, I can hear this and she can't hear this. Why is that?
Hmm.
So fast forward, we moved right into Anne Arundel County, not far away at all from the city line. I was like 10 or 11. And that's when I discovered 10,000 Maniacs.
Hmm.
And
Sure. Yeah.
that Unplugged album, and I would sing it in my parents in the basement all the time. I would just sing to it. And slowly, once in a while, I would see feet on the stairs, like one pair of feet, like
Hmm.
they were sitting on the steps, and then I'd see another, like my mom would like sit down and they would just sit and listen. Um, and for a while, I still didn't even know that I could sing. Like I was like 12, 11, 12. I'd never had a voice lesson. I just knew that I loved it. And then I got into like Indigo Girls and all that stuff.
Hmm.
And that was the one thing that they thought, okay, they asked around and they said, well, there's some friends that said there's this really awesome school and you should have her audition. And I sang Somewhere Over the Rainbow. And I remember my audition so clearly because it was the first audition I'd ever had. And the faculty did that look. They looked at each other. Now I know what that look is, right? But at the time, I was like, had no idea if I did well,
Mhm.
and so that was really the beginning. That was the
Mhm.
beginning. So,
Well, that's interesting. How you made that first step to get in there, and then I guess polishing. You had mentioned,
mhm,
all the choir, and then academically, they had very high standards that you had to
yes,
meet in order to stay in there.
hmm,
Did they prepare you at all for reality? I mean, and what I mean by that is the things that we were talking about, that it's not like you're going to waltz out of this school and go straight to a record company and go straight to the top,
hmm,
no questions asked.
right,
I guess, did they instill in you that you're going to have to work even harder now that you've
hmm,
graduated to this level? You have the education, you have the tools. This is
hmm,
where the work begins. Did they really let you know
yes,
what the reality
hmm.
of it was?
The standard at which we were held, especially artistically,
Hmm.
was a very high standard. It took a lot
Hmm.
to get real praise, to get genuine praise. Um, Doing really well, you really weren't praised for that because that was
Hmm.
expected. So the ethic that was driven from day one. Um, and you really had to take it and run with it. But that idea that no one is going to come knock on your door and say, I heard you're a great singer. Come on.
Right, right.
Are you going to work at it? Are you going to perfect it? Are you going to listen? Are you going to learn? Are you going to look around you? Are you going to understand that how your passion and that art connects with the rest of the world? What do you want to say? Who do you want to be? All those things, especially at that age for me. Yes. So in a lot of ways, it prepared me for that, for the thanklessness, and for, I mean, we had lots of master classes and experiences where we would perform for our peers classical arias, and get critiqued in front of like 20, 30 of your peers. I don't like the way you're standing, or that note was flat,
Mm-hmm.
that was regular. That was all the time. So
Right.
yes, it did prepare me. Was there an explicit sense of, are you ready? This is what it's like. Maybe not. But again, I was surrounded by brilliance, genius,
Right.
brilliance.
Right.
Um,
One.
so the real,
Oh,
sorry.
go ahead. I'm
No. I
sorry.
feel like I could talk forever because it was such an amazing time in my life. But everyone had their own self-possession of who they wanted to be even then. So there wasn't really a lot of that was necessary. So it was like the work, the ethic that was instilled. And then from there, we knew that we could run with it.
Okay. Um, I've done some performing at Baltimore Actors Theater. Baltimore Actors Theater was affiliated with a school called Baltimore Actors Theater Conservatory, and a very similar type of school. I think they were a little smaller than Baltimore School for the Arts, and the same type of discipline. None of those teachers there was, going to blow smoke up anybody's butt and tell them they were sensational. When they weren't. They were, the kids were, the students there were, they were critical of them. They really, but they came out of that school knowing what they were doing, polished,
right,
and ready
right.
for reality. None of them had any expectation that they were going to go to audition anywhere in New York and just come waltz right in and go sweeping the nation. And teaching the reality part of it, and giving people that mental toughness is something that's really vital, I think.
Yes.
I never had any, I mean, I took some basic bass lessons when I first started playing music. Then after that, I just started listening to records and just playing on my own and kind of writing my own book. But I wasn't prepared for, how brutal things were. I mean, I was taking that in doses, and I did have thick enough skin to be able to deal with it after a while. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a great tool, and definitely something to have in your belt to have that kind of preparation. I think, especially in this business. I mean, easy come, easy go, no guarantee. You're only as good as your last thing, whether it be a record, a TV show, performance, or what have
And
you.
that's it. Yeah. I mean, the industry does not look like it did, even 5 years ago, like the music industry.
No.
Like, the currency is like TikTok. Is that it? Or, no one really knows. I don't, but those things that you talk about, those things endure. Those things are what matter. I think no matter what the trends are the same 10 guys operating the same labels and chasing the trends and signing folks that get a lot of views. But does that translate to artistry or something that will endure? Is it Joni Mitchell? Like, would she have been on TikTok? Like
Sure.
like
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
I met Emmylou Harris, who my daughter's middle name's Evangeline from her song Evangeline. So again, I have two kids as two references. And she said, I would never want to do this now. Like start out like you are now. I would never want to. And I was like, I don't even want to. It's terrible.
It's
It's
a
awful.
different world. It's a
It's so
different
hard.
world. Yeah, I know people that I played with. After I got back into playing music, in the early 2000s. Started playing music with a friend of mine. We were called the Uncle Moldy Show, and he was like, he's like 15 years older than I am, and I got to know him because when I was a teenager, I used to like his band. They played at my school, and we used to like what they played, and we got talking to them, and we used to roadie for them, and they would get us in, and we would just watch and learn.
Mm-hmm.
Years and years ago, you could have a band. Um, they would go out, they would play 5, 6 nights a week. They made
Mm-hmm.
a living at it.
Mm-hmm.
And the bands with the money they brought in, some of them even had like their own health care and their own dental, and
Yeah.
they put it together as a business, and they
Mm-hmm.
were out performing and doing that, making a living at it.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like nowadays, people say, "Oh, I come over and play." Well, how much? Well, you'll get publicity for this.
Right.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I want you to cater my wedding with all those wings and everything you have, but for the publicity.
Yeah, right. Let
You
me pay
know,
my bill with publicity. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. Yeah,
What
yeah.
they're
The
saying. Yeah.
Baltimore Gas and Electric, I gave them,
Yeah.
300 bucks worth of
BG&E, yeah.
publicity last month.
Publicity.
Yeah.
Or impressions.
Yeah,
Impressions. That was you'll get
that's
so many
a one right there.
impressions.
Well, and that's another thing too that I think about. We've got the Screen Actors Guild on strike. A big
Yep.
concern with the Screen Actors Guild and the writers is AI. New technology.
Sure.
Taking and people are doing it with music now too. But the thing is this started a long time ago with the arts. And I can remember when karaoke started kicking bands out of clubs.
Right.
Places that used to have live bands, all of a sudden it's karaoke or a
Mm-hmm.
DJ. Somebody
Mm-hmm.
comes in and just sits down with a CD player, puts on a
Mm-hmm.
stupid hat. That's your entertainment for the night instead of paying a band.
Instead of having a band. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And now it's starting to hit the movies and the acting profession. But it's been going on in music for years. And I mean, if you ever tried putting your stuff out for these streaming services, and you get a bill that's 50 pages long, and you get like 8 cents at the end of it.
I think I got like my last royalty from streaming was like, look, I'm small time, right? Very small time, but it was multiple pages of every stream. And it was like $14 or something silly, like thousands of plays. And for me, again, I'm small time.
Right.
But thousands of plays should add up to something more than $12 or $14 or whatever it was, right?
Right.
So,
right. And it's starting to hit the acting community because they're talking about what they're getting from not networks and the box office, but what they're getting from Netflix and Amazon and all those other ones. And Lord knows how it's going to turn out here.
Yeah.
I kind of saw this coming years ago when I saw it happening to me, when I took albums that, we had from the 80s and 90s and in the mid 2000s when this thing started to happen, putting them out there. We're like, oh, that's a great idea, electronic. We don't have to make CDs to send out. They can just order it online and they have the music. But like, then you see the statements, you're like,
I know.
What did I do?
Terrifying.
And
yeah.
It is.
It's like tenths and hundredths of 1 cent.
Yeah.
Per play. It's somebody's making money. It's not the artists.
Right. And the thing is that I think the big disservice that it's done is, it's made things easier for the consumer to get your music or whatever.
Sure.
But I think it's also made people not value music and entertainment, whether it be anything. Whether it be an album, I can get that for free. I can just listen to it on YouTube or something, or I can listen to it here, or I can. And it started years ago, but nowadays it's so hard to get paid anymore because of how easy it is just to duplicate and share things instead of giving the artist their due. Which again, the stuff that's going on now has been a long time coming, and but let's talk about these CDs of yours that I've listened to, and I got to tell you, I bought the one from you at your show in Philly.
I was pregnant when I recorded that one with my son.
I think you were kind of alluded to. I was looking at that on your website and looking at some of that, and I think Heartbeat. I think what was that a sonogram I heard on there, or was that?
Yeah, it was a Doppler of my son's heartbeat, of like the first heartbeat we heard from him.
That's wonderful.
So I recorded it on my phone. I sent it to the engineer. Can you put this in the front of because I wrote a song for him. So that's Heartbeat. But that record, was kind of a cool experiment because I had just left Nashville and I was a bit burned out
Mm-hmm.
trying to appeal to country radio. And I just wrote music with a different vibe, with a different feel, and
Mm-hmm.
I had a lot of fun cutting that and writing
Right.
those songs.
The production, I mean, sometimes when you hear tapes, or not tapes, or CDs or demos
Hmm.
or early recordings, we would say, you can hear where a band isn't quite polished, they're not quite together, but they're getting there. And but this, you know, I'd mentioned, the Heartsbeat, your most recent single, and forgive me, the album from 2021 was Smoke Rings, and
Natural Disaster.
that's Natural Disaster. That's right.
But my first EP that I did was Woman on a Mission, and that was my radio
Okay.
single in Nashville. So I released that song to country radio, to tertiary and secondary country radio. And at
Hmm.
some points I was getting like 1,200 spins a week on that song
Right.
throughout, Alabama and Arkansas, and some really
Hmm.
awesome secondary and tertiary country stations around the country and even the
Hmm.
world. Um, that was a cool experience. I didn't have the major cash flow to keep that going, to keep
Sure.
the radio promotions going,
Hmm.
because you got to have somebody out there pitching your stuff, and it's up to them to play it.
Hmm.
But it takes funds that I did not have.
Well, that's hard to come by. It really is.
Hmm.
Everybody, a lot of people, everybody's in that boat, really.
Hmm.
But this is just so, I mean, top of the line. I
Thank
mean,
you.
I it's certainly not on your end that it's not the top of the charts or anything like that. I mean, this product is, I'm just listening to this, and when I drive around for work, I was listening to it in my office. I
Thank
mean,
you.
this is just so, I mean, and I guess this your art school training came in. Polished is one
Thank
word.
you.
Just the playing, all these musicians that you have in there,
Yeah.
just top of the line people.
I'm so
And
lucky. That's all Nashville. It's Kent Wells. It's really him. He's the driving force behind the production. And when we write the song, and then it just these people, these players just go in and they just do something. It is literally like watching magic happen, listening to magic happen. Tracking
mhm.
in a studio with these players is the most exciting thing.
Oh God.
To hear your own song that you wrote, and then they're like,
Mhm,
"Is this the feel?" And it is just like a wall of sound, and it
mhm.
just like chills up and down. I mean, it's incredible. So yeah.
The
um
um the song Postcards, everything in that very well played, and especially you had horns on that too.
yeah, yeah, it
And
was so fun.
I mean, this is just, I mean, just so well written, so well put together.
Thank you.
And I can't say enough about it. I mean, folks,
Thank you so much.
I mean, you definitely got to hear this. You got to hear this. All right. That's what I'm
Thank
going to
you.
say to my audience out there.
Thank you.
This is just, I was really blown away by your material here and
Thank you.
listening to it. And there's just, just a number of parts that I thought, the song, I think it was Smoke Rings. There's
Hmm.
the beginning of that was just so well played.
Hmm. Thank you.
A couple of the other songs, you really had some really good violin, fiddle
Hmm.
on it.
Oh yeah, and mandolin, and I love mandolin. I'm a sucker for mandolin.
I mean,
um
just the all the different parts, the bringing it all together. This is just a phenomenal job that's been
mhm.
done here. I mean, I
Thank you.
can't say
That's all
enough
Kent
about it.
Wells.
I mean, the first 2 days I was listening to, I was dragging my jaw around on the floor, just like,
Oh
wow.
God.
I mean, this is, and I'm just not being maudlin here. I mean, I really mean
No,
it.
thank you. I so appreciate that. It's
Um,
so appreciated. Thank you.
right. And the thing is too, is that it just goes to show you how much is really out there Because I've had a lot of other people come on too that have had, people that were big in this area here, and even from other areas. Some recent guests that had a hit song or two,
Mm-hmm.
and then for whatever reason the record label said nah.
Right.
And a lot of these decisions aren't made by artistic people, aren't made
Yes.
by, they're just made by sometimes by pencil pushers, by bean counters.
Decision makers. That I
Yeah.
always say that there's a distinct difference between the taste makers and the decision makers.
Yes, you put that very well. And just hearing about how I've had actors on, talking about television shows being canceled for
Mm-hmm.
no reason,
That have a
besides,
fan base. That have a
yeah,
fan base.
I know. Like I had somebody on, a fellow who was a showrunner for The Office,
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh my
and
God.
I said, why
Legendary
was
show.
that? And there's articles that I read. I think they had like 8 or 9 seasons, but like
They
every
did, yeah.
season, that show was on the bubble.
Was it? I didn't
Yeah,
know that.
it was on the bubble a number of times throughout that run. And I mean, there were some people that said like the last couple of seasons they had jumped the shark already, but I mean it I've watched that show probably about 20 times cover to cover every episode, and
I
it
know.
and
I
still
always
makes
watch it
me
every time
laugh,
it's on. I always put it
still
on.
holds up.
Oh, it
and
does. So
and
funny.
right, and it, along with you, some of these other bands I've had on, I mean, they got dropped by the record label. The record label didn't give them the support. The record label didn't promote them, didn't send
Right.
them out on the road with the right people. And listening to this material, I mean, there's really no difference between that and their contemporaries as far as quality,
Mm-hmm.
as far as the songs being catchy and listenable and
Yep.
likable. And if given the right opportunity, they
Mm-hmm.
could be at the top of the charts. And it just seems like it just hasn't happened. It didn't happen for them and everything. And
Mm-hmm.
it just seems like there's no sense to this industry so
Yes.
many times.
There's a lot of moments where you feel like there's some unfairness
Hmm.
at hand, and who's to say, who's pulling the strings or who's really in control and what
Hmm.
the criteria is, or a lot of it's luck.
Hmm.
A lot of it's luck.
Yeah.
My first PR firm that I ever worked with was PLA Media in Nashville, and Pam Lewis is the PL in PLA,
Hmm.
and she's amazing. And she basically got Garth Brooks discovered and read,
Hmm.
and she's wonderful. But she did tell me the story about Garth and how he was at the time. Clint Black was the hot thing, and they were like, "Oh, we already have, that kind of guy. We don't need another one." And he was passed over. Garth was passed over by lots of labels in Nashville,
Hmm.
and I'm sure you've heard of the Bluebird um, in Nashville. It's a legendary songwriters venue, the
Yeah.
Bluebird.
Hmm. Hmm.
So there was a round at the Bluebird, and Garth was in the audience, and somebody couldn't make it, and he said, "I have my guitar in the truck," and he got his guitar, and he played, and there was a record exec who was
Hmm.
behind Pam and said, "What did we say about him?" And she's like, "Remember you said," and he said, "Well, call me Monday."
Hmm.
So again, that's Garth Brooks, right?
Yeah.
Like, he is the legend of
Hmm.
legends.
Right.
And is that luck? What is that? Is that luck?
Hmm.
That night, that whatever other poor soul didn't sing, he happened to have his guitar in the truck and he was ready to go. Luck meets opportunity, meets preparation, meets all those things. And so I guess I'm still waiting for my luck. But in the meantime, I got preparation and hard work and all that stuff in the hopper. So
You sure do. You sure do. And
thank you.
you have me who is going to plug your material,
Thank you.
and I'm going to encourage my audience.
Thank you so much.
Tell us about you. I know you have a website with a
Yes.
lot of great information on it, not only your music, but information about you, your
Mm-hmm.
bio,
Mm-hmm.
and photographs and tour dates, or performing and touring dates.
Yes.
Tell us about your website. I mean, and you have a nice
Mhm.
story on there too.
Yeah, it's just carriezaruba.com, and through the pandemic I was able to learn WordPress.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I know. I learned a lot during the pandemic. Like, yeah,
Yes.
you're looking at it, okay?
Right.
You know, this is what I
Yeah.
learned during the pandemic.
Yeah.
You know.
Right. See, we all had our
Mhm.
projects. So once I was able to understand WordPress and kind of lay the foundation down for a decent looking website, I was able to put sort of outfit it how I'd like. And, the first page is, just like all my music. And really, I wanted the important parts about me, the artist, to be really accessible. So the
Mhm.
press, critical reviews, my biography, who am I, what am I about, what kind of music am I making? It's all there. And of course, like my social channels are there too. I don't live and die. I'm an elder millennial, so I
Um,
don't I
Gen
don't live
X
and
here,
die, right?
yeah.
See, even you're even, but I don't live and die by the Facebook, Instagram sword,
Mhm.
like a lot of folks do. But I, put it out there, and I do my duty, and I post, and I uh, always in relation to my music
Mhm.
and my artistry. I don't do a lot of like personal life stuff on there. Keep my kids kind of, most of it. I try to keep them separate, but
Sure.
um
Right. Right.
but yeah, so Instagram and Facebook, I would say Instagram's like the easiest place to marry all of the different content. So like
Mhm.
video, and I just launched an online store. You can buy my merch online. Um, that kind of thing. You can kind of, it's a good hub for all of that. It's
Mhm.
easy. It's easy. It's convenient.
Yep.
Um,
And what's it
so
called?
so my Instagram is Carrie underscore, that
Mhm.
little flat line, Zaruba. That's it.
Mhm.
So
Okay, and your main website too,
carriezaruba.com.
carriezaruba.com.
Yeah.
It's a great website, it really is,
Thank
and
you so much.
it's nicely done. You really did a nice job on it, I
Thank
think.
you. Thank you. I wouldn't say that web design's my strength, but like I said, I had a lot of time to kill. I had a
Yeah,
lot of time
we all did. We all did. You
learning
know,
code.
yep. I didn't do that, but I have
Yeah.
mine is pretty much my website for my murder mystery company is pretty much like a cut and paste kind of thing,
Right. And that's
or
okay.
drop the file here and it shows up,
Sure.
and that's all you
Yep.
need to know.
Yep.
But I
It gets
think
it
we
done
all,
though.
yeah, we all went back to the drawing board during that year, and we've had
Yes.
some good stuff come out. So, carriezaruba.com, and I will put all of your links in the show notes so people can
Thank
find
you.
it and
Wonderful. Thanks
make
so
sure that
much.
people can hear it and everything.
Thank you.
Now, I wanted to ask a little bit about your shows now. I mean, you
Hmm.
do have shows listed and performing around Philadelphia and other areas, I guess,
Hmm.
too.
Yes.
Are you doing when you're going out? Are you bringing a full band with you? I think the first time I saw you, there was a gentleman playing guitar
Yes. So just an
accompanying you.
acoustic. Right now, it's just acoustic duo.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, it's just me and my player's name's Ryan Swing. That's his real name, Swing.
Hmm.
And he's an incredible player.
He is good.
He's so good, and he's a bit of, he's actually a native Chicagoan, but he's as Nashville as I could find in Philadelphia.
Hmm.
So he really has a natural feel for my music, and um so he says really enjoys it,
Hmm.
and likes to play, and we have a good stage chemistry, and it's been really really fun.
Yeah, yeah.
I did some full band stuff before, and I've again like trying to find my footing for venues and places to play that have an appetite for original Americana and original
Hmm.
country music. Still looking for that, but in the meantime, it's nice to travel light with just him and I, and we got a slim profile. I just roll in with a. I
Hmm.
have my in-ear monitors now and my little microphone pouch. He's got his
Hey.
guitar and
Hmm.
maybe a little tiny little a board. So yeah, it's not a lot of no muss, no fuss.
Right. I'm all for that. I can,
Mm.
going back into, the years when I was starting to play and then roadieing for other bands,
Mm.
it's amazing. You can have a PA system, about this big, the speakers are both that big, and you can
Hmm.
get just as much out of what used to fill an entire truck.
Oh gosh, everything's like a little case.
Yeah, you just walk
Little
in,
zip, zip, zip.
there it
Even my
is.
transmitter for my in-ears, monitors is
Hmm.
like a little bit bigger than an iPod case. AirPod,
Right, right.
iPod. I am a millennial.
Hmm.
AirPod case. It's like this big, and
Hmm.
it's just so compact, and that is amazing. That is amazing.
That really,
What they've been
yeah.
able to do with
Mhm,
gear, and how accessible gear is,
mhm.
and how it's constantly evolving, and all the cool stuff. It's like so cool.
Right, right. I've always been an Ampeg man and
Mm.
a bass player,
Yeah.
and these, and especially some of the rooms we used to do. And I'll tell you this story here. And there was a place down in College Park, Maryland, we used to play called the Paragon, and that place had like the stairway from hell. I mean, the bands played upstairs, and you had to walk up this giant stairway,
Narrow.
and you're lugging all that old equipment up
Mm.
there and everything. And an Ampeg SVT head, I don't know how much it weighed, but it was just too much.
Oh
And
my gosh.
you
For
lug that up,
stairs.
a 215 cabinet and everything else. And then when you're leaving, I guess the only good part about that is that if you hauled all your own equipment out of these places, there was no way you could be drunk at the end of the night to drive
Oh no.
home. I mean, you sweated that alcohol.
It was a full
uh,
workout, right? With
you
weights.
you sweated all that out of you, and you were
Yeah.
straight as an arrow and completely sober after doing that.
Absolutely.
But nowadays, it's just like you can bring it in, and who knows? If it'll even get smaller after that. It's just a
Oh my
miracle how
gosh.
these things
I know.
go on here.
Yep.
So, how about shows coming up? What do you have?
Yeah. So right now I have something Saturday at Milk Boy on South Street,
Okay.
7 o'clock.
Hmm.
It's just an original set. I'm really looking forward to that. And
Hmm.
then I'm going back there as a feature during one of their nights. It's a November 14th. But I'm
Hmm.
still booking. I'm actively booking. I'd love to play, in my hometown. So if you know anybody who
Yeah. Yeah.
I could open for, I mean, I've reached out to Ramshead and Birchmere and all that. So
Hmm.
I'm just waiting for my call, waiting for my email. Yes, we'd love to have you, because I could bring a whole bunch of Zarubas with me.
Hmm.
Um,
Sure.
so if you know of anybody who's looking for an opener, who would like what I do,
That's right,
keep me in mind.
listeners.
Yes,
Hmm.
yes.
That's right, listeners. Believe me, this will be a tough act to follow, but I think it would be well worth having her, definitely,
Oh,
for
thanks.
sure. Carrie, I really appreciate you being willing to spend time
Thank
with us
you.
tonight. I've
Oh, it was
enjoyed
so
speaking to
fun.
you, and
Oh,
I've really enjoyed listening to your material.
thank you so much. I really
And
appreciate it.
folks, remember carriezaruba.com, and her
Yes.
links and everything will be in the show notes,
Mm-hmm.
that you can follow and click on anytime. And please come back and see us again.
I definitely will.
Whenever you have new release or anything newsworthy, please feel free to come back, and we'd
I
love
would
to
love
have you.
that. Yeah, it was so fun. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much. It was really good. Really
Well,
fun.
thank you, Carrie. And this is
All
Michael
right.
Spedden. We've had Carrie Zaruba with us tonight, and we're signing off. We will see you all next time. Thank you all for watching and listening.
Bye.
Hello, listeners. We at Fowl Players Radio thank you for all of your support over the past 10 seasons and nearly 300 episodes. We would like to encourage you to keep listening and spread the word. Audio versions of all episodes can be found on our main website, fowlplayersradio.com, as well as on many of the other platforms you can see here. You can find all of our season 9 and 10 episodes, as well as some best of episodes and shorts on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@fowlplayersradio. Be sure to hit the subscribe button to get alerts when new episodes are released. No matter what platform you choose to listen, you can help us greatly by hitting the subscribe button and giving us an honest review. You can also help us by supporting us at patreon.com/foulplayersradio or at buymeacoffee.com/foulplayerw. Your support makes it possible for us to continue to be your one-stop shop for all of your pop culture needs. Be sure to follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for new episode announcements and news and updates on all of our guests. Thank you, and enjoy this episode. And thank you all for tuning in tonight, everybody. Carrie Zaruba was our guest. She is awesome. She's an excellent singer and songwriter, originally from Brooklyn in Baltimore, South Baltimore, not New York, South Baltimore. Again, we had a great time talking about her music, her days in Nashville, her experiences at the Baltimore School for the Arts. CarrieZaruba.com is where you can find her information, her music, merchandise, show dates, and everything else. So make sure you check it out. And again, her links are in the show notes. If you are interested in professional comedic entertainment for your venue, please consider A Murder Mystery from the Fowl Players of Perryville. www.fowlplayersofperryville.com, 443-600-0446, or fowlplayersperryville at yahoo.com for more information. Remember the Back of the Rack, the Michael Spedden Show on 97underground.com, Baltimore's pure rock worldwide. We feature songs you forgot you liked, current and classic local rock, hard rock, and metal classics that never die. Tune in every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. You can listen on your computer or download the app so you can listen anytime, anywhere, 97underground.com. And we at Fowl Players Radio, remember, please come out and support our guests in all of their endeavors. You can find links to their books, their albums, tickets to their shows. All are in the show notes of every episode. So please stop by if there's an episode that you like. If you're interested in learning more about somebody and seeing a performance or buying their products, please click on the links and do so. We thank you again for tuning in and listening. Remember, you can help us greatly by clicking the like and subscribe buttons and giving us a fair review. We are found on all podcast platforms out there, just dozens and dozens of them. There's so many of them out there, I don't even know them all. Our main website is fowlplayersradio.com, and our YouTube channel is youtube.com/@fowlplayersradio. Thanks again for tuning in tonight, everybody. We will see you next time. This is Michael Spedden signing off.